Hey guys, tonight we begin with something a little saltier. A tale not of epic battles or world-changing maps, but of something far more essential. Naps. Yes, this evening, we drift back into the damp, creaking, and surprisingly sleepy world of the Age of Discovery. That time when men bravely set out across unknown oceans with nothing but ambition, bad dental hygiene, and zero understanding of scurvy. While history likes to celebrate their courage and adventure, we'll be focusing on something far less celebrated, their naps. The kind taken on splintery decks next to fish guts, or in hammocks swinging dangerously close to open gunpowder barrels. Because if there's one thing overlooked about the great maritime explorers, it's that they were constantly, hopelessly tired. From early morning rope hauling to late night rat watching, life on board was not exactly a cruise. Tonight, we'll explore what it really felt like to be a weary sailor stuck in a floating wooden prison, sleeping beside your enemies, and sometimes your own vomit, as the world you once knew disappeared behind the horizon. Before we weigh anchor into this sleepy odyssey, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy gentle, ridiculous history like this. It helps keep the ship afloat. And tell me in the comments, where are you listening from tonight and what time is it for you? I love seeing which distant shores these stories reach. Now, dim the lights, maybe put on some wave sounds or a gentle fan for that perfect background hum. Wrap yourself up like a burlap sailor's hammock and let your mind drift across the ocean of the past. Congratulations, you've just woken up in the year 1521, and you're in the belly of a Portuguese carrack somewhere off the coast of Sumatra, with a toothache, a headache, and a rat nibbling at your boot. Welcome aboard. You wake up to the sound of a groan. It isn't yours, though you're close to joining in. It's João, the bearded man, sharing the hammock next to yours, currently scratching his lice with the same hand he used to gut fish last night. You lie still for a moment, registering the sting in your lower back from sleeping half-curled on a rotting rope coil. Technically, you're in the sleeping quarters, which is just a kind phrase for the dark, low-ceilinged space beneath the deck that smells like sweat, seawater, mildew, old pork fat, and something disturbingly sweet. You think it might be the fermenting bucket of pickled onions someone left uncorked. Above you, the boards creak with the steps of the early crew. The ship sways softly, enough to make your stomach churn but not enough to lull you back to sleep. There is no real sunrise here. Just a gradual leaking of gray-blue light through the cracks in the wood, revealing the shadowy outlines of 20 men sleeping head to foot in a space fit for 8. Someone nearby is snoring like a saw through wet lumber. Another is whispering a prayer into his blanket, probably hoping he doesn't fall overboard today. You sit up carefully, avoiding the rat nest near the barrel of salted cod. Your first breath of the morning is thick with brine, urine, and stale beer. Your second breath is worse. Personal hygiene, of course, is more of a theory than a practice. There's no fresh water to wash with. It's rationed, and mostly reserved for drinking or occasionally baptizing cargo. So you splash your face with a few drops collected from a leaking rain barrel, then rub your armpits with a piece of rag that smells faintly of lemon. Or was that tar? Either way, it's better than nothing. To get dressed is mostly to retie your belt and attempt to unstick your woolen shirt from your back. It's still damp from last night's squall. You pull on your breeches and scratch at your leg where a splinter has embedded itself. A souvenir from the ladder rung you slipped on 3 days ago. Your boots are already on. You slept in them. Everyone does. It's safer that way. Breakfast is, predictably, grim. A shared chunk of ship's biscuit, rock hard, riddled with weevils. You break it against the edge of a cannon and chew slowly, grinding both biscuit and bug together in your molars. There's also a ladle of beer, sour, warm, and vaguely oily. Still, it counts as calories. You stare at the horizon through a slit in the hull, watching a line of squawking seabirds circle something in the water. You pretend it's not a drowned sailor. You want warmth, maybe some fruit. Instead, you get salt wind and more damp wool. And of course, no privacy. Someone is relieving himself into a wooden bucket in the corner, again. You adjust your shirt, still itchy, and mentally prepare for the day's tasks. Ropes, barrels, shouting, bruises, maybe another splinter. And yes, you guessed it. This was considered a good morning. One without fire, mutiny, or dysentery. Count your blessings. Your day begins not with a to-do list, but with a shouted command. Something about the mizzenmast and a loose halyard, you're not sure. You just know that if you don't move fast enough, you'll either be yelled at by the bosun or struck in the face by a swinging block of wood the size of a dog. The deck is already wet, slick with spray, and your legs ache from the constant balancing act that life on a rolling ship requires. You grab the rope, pull hard, and wince as another splinter, smaller this time, embeds itself into your palm. You'll dig it out later with a fishbone. The sun, now fully above the horizon, is not your friend. It glares off the water, off the bleached deck, and off the bald spot of the helmsman, making you squint so hard your head starts to throb. There's no shade, unless you count standing behind a barrel of pickled cabbage that smells like punishment. Your job today is simple, repetitive, exhausting. Hoist, scrub, patch, haul. Every task seems designed either to test your resolve or break your spine. By mid-morning, someone has already thrown up overboard, likely from the swill served at breakfast, or possibly from staring at the same exact wave pattern for 8 hours straight. You nod sympathetically. Then get back to scrubbing the deck, using a chunk of sand-covered rope and salt water, because soap is for nobles and priests. Lunch is shouted into your ears by a thin man with one eye and 4 teeth. He presents it like a gift, a slab of hard cheese, possibly also a weapon, a salted fish so dry it splinters, and another biscuit that is somehow even more infested than the morning's. You tap the weevils out onto your sleeve and flick them off toward the gulls, who thank you with enthusiastic shrieking. Hydration? Another cup of warm, brackish beer, now slightly yeasty and definitely shared. The captain is somewhere above, occasionally pacing and mumbling in Portuguese or Spanish or something that sounds angry. He has a private stash of wine and soft bread. You know this because you helped hide it once in exchange for not being whipped. That was a good deal. The mid-afternoon sun brings with it the quiet hour, which is ironic, because this is when the deck truly becomes unbearable. The tar melts just enough to stick, the ropes sting your skin, and any exposed metal becomes branding, hot. You find yourself fantasizing about things like pears, soap, a bench that doesn't sway under you. A chair would be luxurious. You've seen a chair exactly once since boarding. Entertainment comes in the form of watching the ship's cat chase something under the cargo netting. It might be a rat. It might also be the same piece of salt pork it lost last week. A young boy named Miguel is crying because someone shaved his eyebrow as a joke, then blamed it on a sea spirit. No one comforts him. Disease also sails with you. A man in the corner has been coughing up something yellow and wet since dawn. People give him a wide berth, which, on a ship this size, is about 2 feet. You wish him well silently and hope your bunk is far enough away. As the sun begins its slow descent, you spend an hour on lookout duty. You're up in the crow's nest, your legs trembling from the climb, staring at the endless water like it might suddenly offer you salvation. It does not. it offers more waves, and of course, it gets worse. The sun dips finally, casting long, orange streaks across the heaving sea. It might be beautiful. If you weren't so tired, your eyelids feel like wet sacks of flour. But dinner waits, and it's not going to eat itself. You sit cross-legged on a damp crate as the food is ladled out from a bubbling pot you wisely chose not to look into. Tonight's offering: a stew of boiled something, possibly fish, possibly rat, with a few limp vegetables that may have once been carrots. It smells faintly of socks and tastes like seawater filtered through rope. You eat every bite. The bread, if it can be called that, is gray and soggy from the humidity. Still, it's warm, which means someone heated it, which also means someone used precious firewood. Someone will probably be yelled at for that. You gnaw at it anyway, ignoring the crunch of grit or insect wing. Around you, men eat with their hands, slurp from wooden bowls, cough, curse softly, and pick their teeth with the ends of broken spoons. It's the closest thing you've had to a dinner party in months. The sky darkens, stars blink above, cold, sharp, endless. You stand for evening prayer, muttered half-heartedly by the ship's makeshift priest, who smells like vinegar and fear. Then, with no ceremony, the men begin to peel off, crawling back into the lower deck like rats returning to a nest. You descend carefully, holding the rail with blistered hands. The air below is warm now, thick with the day's sweat and the odor of wet feet. You pass a barrel labeled emergency pork that no one dares touch, and step over a crewman snoring next to a coil of rope. There's a space about the size of a coffin available beside a burlap sack. You crawl into it, lay your head on a folded shirt that used to be white, and try not to notice that the man next to you has fleas. The ship rocks, the boards creak. Someone lets out a long, low groan. You hope it's from sleep, not sickness. Your shirt clings to you, still damp, and you itch in 3 places you can't scratch without making it worse. You wrap yourself in a wool blanket that smells like wet goat and stale wine. It helps, marginally. Outside, the waves slap the hull in slow, rhythmic thuds. You try to match your breath to the sound. Try not to think about the bucket in the corner. Try not to think about the man who died last week and was simply tossed overboard with a muttered prayer. He'd slept 2 feet from where you lie now. A drop of condensation hits your forehead. You close your eyes. The darkness is not peaceful. It's heavy, filled with murmurs, snores, occasional coughs, and the constant shifting of tired bodies packed far too close. And yes, this is how you went to bed. And so, you drift into sleep, if you can call it that. Surrounded by the rhythmic groaning of wood, the soft slap of sea against hull, and the occasional sneeze from a man who may or may not have the plague. It's not a peaceful rest, but it's all you have. And tomorrow you'll wake again before sunrise, eat more salted misery, and repeat. Because this is what it meant to sail in the age of discovery. Not romantic maps or glorious conquest, but the daily, quiet endurance of exhaustion, damp, and disappointment. You weren't a hero. You were ballast with hands. You weren't charting new worlds. You were trying not to vomit on your boots. You pulled rope, dodged rats, scraped crust off your own tongue, and prayed that whatever was in the stew didn't blink back. And yet, you endured. There's something astonishing about that. You weren't built for this. No one was. And still, day after day, night after sleepless night, you endured. Not because you were strong or brave or special, but because humans, somehow, are stubborn enough to survive even this. The age of discovery wasn't won by explorers in feathered hats, but by weary, half-starved sailors like you, asleep beside their enemies, dreaming of bread. So, the next time you lay your head down on a soft pillow, clean and dry, in a room that doesn't sway, remember them. Every warm bath, every fresh apple, every quiet night without lice, it's a small miracle, a gift of centuries of trial, error, and yes, naps taken beside barrels of gunpowder. Thank you for joining me on this slow journey across heavy waves and heavier eyelids. If you enjoyed this gentle drift through time, feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It means a lot, but only if it brought you a little peace. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What would have been your biggest struggle aboard one of these ships? The smell? The food? The hammocks? Be honest. Now rest well. You've earned it more than Juan with the lice ever did. Good night, sailor.